Then I have Ratatouille.
Stop. But you know damn well it's not a
It has elements of a rom-com.
You are my fantasy.
Well, we don't have to talk about it, but it's not whatever.
Leaning is whole bodies moving in like this. Leaning involves wanting and accepting.
You're not hard to get at all. You're hard to earn. It's so much better.
Welcome to Sweetheart Saturdays, a rom-commentary podcast hosted by Mika and Becca, two heartwarmed romantics who gush about our favorite romance flicks and examine what makes rom-coms work. All right, today we are presenting our top 7 rom-coms based on whatever criteria we come up with. And we're wondering who will come out on top.
Yeah. This isn't really a battle of the rom-coms. It's just,
this is what I love.
Yeah, we just wanted to sit down and introduce our favorite rom-coms of all time. We've talked a little bit about stories and tropes that we really like so far, but we haven't dove into the world of rom-coms, if you will. And we've been enjoying rom-coms, I don't know, as long as we've been alive, so it is worth pointing out some of our faves.
So my runners-up, not really runners-up, they were just like rom-coms that I think past Mika would have really loved, and current Mika's like, nah.
That's a mood.
One that I grew up loving was Kate and Leopold, which is a Meg Ryan film, and as you will probably find out in the next few minutes, I'm a huge Meg Ryan rom-com fan. And it also has Hugh Jackman, but it didn't make the cut because it has some pretty problematic elements to it, and a lot of these do because they're dated, but I just couldn't justify it with my love. I couldn't reconcile the two, and so I left that one out. I put Letters to Juliet because I think it's a pretty good B-level rom-com for me. I would put it on whenever I would get sick and stay home from school, so it's fun enough in that regard, but it never hits. It never changed who I am.
I honestly barely remember watching it. Who's the lead in that one?
Amanda Seyfried and some British guy.
See, my thing was, when I was a teenager, I didn't like Amanda for some reason, so I wouldn't watch her movies.
That's so
I don't have a
cruel.
reason for it. It was totally shallow. She's fine.
Oh,
I like her just fine.
Yeah, I loved that movie because anything to do with correspondence, again, you'll find out in my top 7, it resonates with me, but it was just a really white film, so it doesn't make the cut. Mamma Mia's also on here, though, so sorry to Amanda. Love the soundtrack, iconic. See, I thought about it, and I was like, well, the romance isn't really with Amanda's character, which is fine, but I feel like this is an odd one out, so I just kind of left it out. Then I have Ratatouille.
Stop. But you know damn well it's not a rom-com.
It has elements of a rom-com. Okay,
we cut into your defense of Ratatouille as a rom-com.
Yeah. Linguini and Cassette, their whole interaction, I would argue, is rom-com-esque, but also Remy's love for cooking is romantic, and it romanticizes the world of cuisine. It's still in our whole idea of rom-coms being, aside from the romance, you learn how to be a better person in all of your relationships.
It's romantic, and it is a comedy.
So there you go. It's a rom-com. All right. Moving on to the 3 last ones is Life as We Know It. It didn't make the list because I've got some pretty strong contenders.
Pretty strong ones.
I used to rewatch that all the time, though, because in the 2010s, we didn't really have a lot to go off of, in terms of good romantic content. And so I would revisit that one a lot. And then I have She's Dating the Gangster, which is a Filipino rom-com, which I rewatch as a comfort film. It almost made it was number 7 at some point, and then I remembered my number 7 and I was like, what am I doing? And then the last one is, to my shame, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. It's a really guilty pleasure of mine to watch that film.
We watched that not that long ago. It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad. It's just not great. So There
not
you
the
go.
best. I want to really quick just display the importance of my honorary mentions, if you will allow me to step away from the screen for a second.
Okay.
Show you how important these are. Give me 1 second.
Damn, guys, I should have come prepared. I have DVDs on me. I'm gonna go grab them.
One eternity later.
That was a very arduous journey. I might have injured myself slightly, but it's okay.
No.
Uh,
If you want to show the ones that you...
Sure. So, first off, I forgot to mention this iconic film, My Scene Jammin' in Jamaica. Counts as a rom-com, and it's excellent. Secondly, Shrek 2, also excellent.
I can't with you.
And then we have Sleepless in Seattle, because again, Meg Ryan fan,
Classic.
which my mom passed on to me, so really, it's her. But I also have Letters to Juliet on Blu-ray, and it was like the rom-com for some reason that me and my family friends would always watch at family gatherings, so that's why it's also on there. And then I have these 3 DVDs, which aren't really rom-coms, but I was like super into them. Love Comes Softly, Love's Enduring Promise, Love's Unfolding Dream, and they're all like pioneer, settler.
That's why I'd never heard of
romances. This is just me being like, I really love romance.
So I will go through my honorary mentions real quick.
Go for it, yeah.
There's 2 that I didn't put in just because I don't think they fit the category. And that is going to be Ever After. Hello, if you've been listening the past few weeks. Can't go a day without mentioning that one. Ever After is a wonderful romance, but it's not a rom-com, so I didn't want to include it. And then Dirty Dancing was my other one. I think that's one of my favorite romances ever. It's been a while since I've watched it, so I'm sure there are elements, such as Baby being a little too young, that would play a factor in how I enjoy it. It is very iconic for romance. I feel like there are rom-coms that draw from Dirty Dancing specifically for tropes for romance, so it's definitely like iconic. I have my top 7, but I found a lot of movies that I own that did not make the top 7. Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Oh, yeah.
I watch it every year. I'm like, oh, it's January. It feels like it's time to watch Girls Just Want to Have Fun again. But I remember I watched it with you, and I was really excited to show it to you because I was like, I love this movie. And we watched it, and I was like, honestly, it's not that good. I reflected a little bit. So it's definitely a nostalgic favorite. We watched this not that long ago. The Prince and Me is an honorary mention for me. It doesn't hold up the way that I thought it did in my mind. There are things that I must have imagined existed in the movie that didn't exist when we watched it. The pacing wasn't great. I also put Life as We Know It. I bought this specifically because you and I were really into the movie at one point.
Yes.
And I don't think I've ever watched it out of the DVD. I just wanted to have it. I have the DVD for this, but I think it's away somewhere. I put This Means War. Because
that's a good one.
I did love that movie when it was
that's a good one. Yeah.
I think it's just a great team of actors, and the premise is silly. And I think rom-coms should be a little silly sometimes.
Yes.
Oh, I just realized I didn't put on here How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
I
didn't put that on my top 7.
I thought that was going to be in top 7. What?
I didn't put it on my top 7. But I do think that it's a contender. I literally forgot about it.
I forgot one.
What's your one that almost made the cut?
The Duff.
Oh, yeah, that one was...
That one has made a huge impact on me. Shout out to Nabiha.
I got a lot of Reese on here. Oh my god, first of all, Legally Blonde should be on here. I didn't put it on here, but it should be. But I have Just Like Heaven, which was a great one for me at the time. I feel like it's one of those ones that if I watched it now, I'd be like, maybe not as invested. The other one I was thinking of, You're the Boss, a Filipino movie.
Tony.
I thought that was such a fun movie.
It's a good one, yeah.
And I love Tony, so I gotta do one of hers. And then the last one I have on there is Bring It On, the first one. And the reason that this is now an honorary mention is because I added a different one to my top 7. It was on my top 7, so I got booted. Bring It On, I think, is a pretty classic story, and it's got a classic like rom-com feel, but the overall feeling is more about the teams and the competition. So it's like not the forefront, and that's why it's kind of a little lower. Those are my honorary mentions.
Okay, shall I start us off?
Yes, please go into your number 7.
Okay, all right. My number 7. I am surprised that it ranked this low in my list, but then when I thought about it, I was like, I'm okay with this decision. This movie made an enormous impact on me, and my love for fashion, particularly bridal fashion. My 7th movie in this list is 27 Dresses.
That's a good one.
It is the reason why I love the song Benny and the Jets so much. There's a lot of lessons about being walked all over, which if you watched any of our Cinderella episodes, I'm a huge fan of anything that has to do with learning how to say no, because that's something that I struggle with. One of my favorite lines in the movie is to her sister being like, "You're my sister, you'd never hurt anybody, and I'm your baby sister." She goes, "That was yesterday. Today you're just the bitch who cut up my mother's wedding dress." Excellent, iconic, never before seen. Beautiful. I really love the vindictive slideshow that she does, which in retrospect is actually pretty cool, but it is something that I would do if I ever snapped that hard. And speaking of things that snapped hard, James Marsden's jawline in that movie is excellent. And so that's my 7th movie.
That's a great one. It didn't make my list, spoiler alert, but I did love 27 Dresses when it came out. It was a good one. I fought a lot with myself about my last two, my 6 and 7. My number 7, and I'm sticking with it, is Mannequin, the first one. That movie I fell in love with when I was a kid, and I think I fell in love with it because I love the idea of bringing life to things that aren't alive, or the magic of it. There's definitely something to be said for it being a little creepy. This guy just like obsessed with his mannequin, and then she comes to life and he falls in love with her. It's a little creepy. I thought it was really cute when I was younger, and I had a huge crush on Andrew McCarthy at the time. And I kept it because I think that even when I'm watching it now, there's still elements of it that I really like, even though there are things that don't hit. So that one's my 7. A lot of nostalgia for that one.
I've never watched that, so I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that I would be into as a child, but hearing about it now, I'm like, I see. My number 6 is, I actually wasn't sure if I wanted it to be this or She's All That. So She's All That is also a film that I should have mentioned in my honorary mentions, but it's not on there. And so instead I decided to go back to my roots, because it's not like I could put Pride and Prejudice, because as much as that movie makes me laugh, it's not romantic comedy. So I put Austenland. As an Austen fan, this movie is a hoot. Jennifer Coolidge, the way that she delivers her lines, like her comedic timing in this movie is mwah, chef's kiss. To this day, I will still quote, "Sometimes at night, I like to put my face in the fire." Just like really absurd lines like that made it into the film. This movie for me was the reason why I love Hot in Here by Nelly. And Mr. Nobley, so the main love interest, I think that he truly embodies the modern day Darcy. He's socially awkward and gentlemanly. The way that he delivers, "You're my fantasy." Such a cheesy line, but it gets me every time. So I think this movie is just like a lot of fun for people who really love romance and love Austen and love something so much that it's like the weird, quirky thing about them that people don't really realize can go deeper.
It's a great premise. Honestly, when I was looking at my list of movies I could possibly put in my top 7, I was like, Austenland's a Mika thing, though. Like, I feel like that's her. Like, yeah, it's a good one for her. I had a feeling it would be on your list. Yeah. I would imagine you'd feel the same way about me with this one, because I really love it. I put Chasing Liberty as my number 6.
Okay, yeah, that's very you.
And then in parentheses, I put Forgive the Patriotism, because
it's cute, though.
It's a cute one, and I think that there's a lot in that movie about learning respect, and that goes both ways between her and her dad. Communication and respect and privacy and freedom to be what you want to be and to explore your own self. Right. It has its issues, but it's a largely really cute movie, and I've loved that one for a long time. I do love Mandy more. That premise of like the president's daughter is like trying to get her freedom because she's scrutinized by the press all the time. Like, I was really into that when I was a kid for some reason. And I don't think there's many tropes that are like that, or many movies that have that trope.
I think it falls under the category of princess. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say not to conflate presidency with royalty, because it's not the same.
Aladdin.
But it does have, Aladdin. Yeah, or Princess Diaries. Like, it kind of has some of the same energy. There's a few others that I had thought about doing in this bottom section. I put that on there because I really feel like that is just always going to be one that I really have a soft spot for.
Number 5, Set It Up. So it came out in 2018. My only gripe with this movie is that I wish that it had more Lucy Liu, like if they leaned into the B plot a little bit more. But Harper and Charlie, I have such a soft spot for them. And some of the lines that have stuck out to me over the years are, you could be a nice person, but you want to be an asshole, which is something that I would say probably. Partially why I love this movie so much is because it's not just about the love story, it's also about Harper's journey as a writer and coming into her own. It sticks out to me as one of those, hey, are you doing what you want to do kind of thing, where Charlie said, you're afraid of sitting down and writing and finding out you're not any good at it, which has always cut deep to the core. The little montage when Harper is actually writing and just really gross and just slouching everywhere. I really love how real that movie is. And there's a really cute game that they play where they list the things that they don't like about each other, and then after that they say, and yet I still love you. It's such a cute thing to do.
Cute.
I really love this one scene where they're just having pizza together. It shows how things can seem so minimal, but when you're in love, it's just like, this is a great time. So I really love that movie because of how it explores her as a writer and how sometimes the people that you love push you to be better and like chase your dreams.
So my number 5, it's been a very long time since I've watched it, so I'm about due to watch it, and I know you love this one, is You've Got Mail. And I put that as my number 5 because it is a classic. Anytime I watch it, I enjoy it. There's a book I read recently called Tweet Cute, which echoes a lot of the tropes in You've Got Mail, which is that you are effectively enemies in real life, but through online shenanigans you connect and like fall in love, and then you have to deal with that when you come to realize they're the same person. I think that is such a fun trope. Any kind of trope, specifically in rom-coms, that has a misunderstanding like of identity or some kind of confusion is just great, because it's always going to have great comedy and it's always going to have a lot of conflict when the reveal comes out, and it will always hit. Like, it doesn't fail. And so I think this is one of those movies that really set that in motion. But it has been a very long time, which is why it's lower on my list, because obviously I don't watch it very much.
My number 4 is While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman.
Classic.
My family watches this every year. Mm-hmm. That whole break between Christmas and New Year's is like the While You Were Sleeping, You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle binge time. But this one in particular has always stuck out to me. First of all, the iconic leaning moment. I always think about that now when I watch people in love and I observe the lean. I just really appreciate how the main character, she's very like low key. And in the same way as a lot of my favorites, the protagonist tends to be like shy. And through interacting and being annoyed with their love interest, they become more confident in themselves. I really like when love interests tease that out of each other, like the best versions of themselves. And it's just really cute. It's a very low-key film, and I just appreciate that. Plus, like you said, there's a huge misunderstanding in the movie. She saves his brother from this subway accident, but he's in a coma, and while he's in a coma, they all believe that she's the fiance.
Chaos ensues.
It's just misunderstanding chaos, and it's really, really funny. Like, the family in that movie is hilarious. Oh, so good.
My number 4 is When Harry Met Sally. It is a classic slow burn film, and something about the fanfic tropes in rom-coms that does it. Like, this is the best example of slow burn that I could think of, because they really go from not really being that close to being friends to falling in love. I think that the situations that they're in to get to that point are so low key, just really down to earth kind of vibe, and the pacing for this was good. It's just top tier. It's really good. Honestly, if I were to sit someone down and be like, here are the movies that you need to watch to know this genre, that would be one of the first ones I would show.
So true. My number 3 is one that I was like, dang, is this really going to be 3? Is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I mean, this is basically my biopic. The entire trilogy is about how Lara Jean comes into her own, and it's about how she becomes more confident in who she is. So, running theme here, one of my favorite scenes in the first movie is when her dad takes her to the diner and they have a conversation about, I don't know what happened between you and Peter, but I do know that when you were with him, you started opening yourself up more to the world. Seeing you make more friends and being more open to possibilities just makes me really happy, is what he said to her. And that has always stuck to me as one of my favorite scenes ever. At the end of the day, that's why I love romance. It's one of those things that can, like I said, tease the best of you out into the world. I really appreciate that, and how Lara Jean has to come to terms with the fact that, it is really romantic to process your feelings through writing letters, but it's more beneficial for everybody when you can share how you feel in the moment. Plus, representation, my spiel. You've probably listened to the first episode. I hope you have. So that's the third one for me.
I definitely think To All the Boys is a really good one. My number 3 is 13 Going on 30. That is my number 3. That is another one that's nostalgic, iconic, but it really holds up. I love it because there's just so many factors. There's the decade factor. This one has more of that glam to it, but it feels like it's part of the world that she's in. There's just something about Jenna's particular journey of self that really resonates. The romance is pretty chill, childhood friend trope, and it grows at a good pace. But the movie is not just about that, which is what we love. And we love that her story is about her priorities. What does she actually want in her life? What is she putting out there? Because she learns that she becomes very shallow. So she realizes that that's not for her. And I think that's such a great message for anyone who's watching it, especially teenagers that maybe are 13 that are watching that and think that they need to be popular or whatever. That's a great one, and I still quote it all the time.
All right, top 2 was really hard for me to make a decision on, but my second film is When Harry Met Sally, which I do have the DVD of because I bought it for myself. I said, very hard decision. I only watched this film for an assignment in Writer's Craft, which feels like eons ago. It was 7 years ago. It was on a list of movies that we could write a film review on. I got a perfect score on this review because I raved about it. It was everything that I want in a rom-com and in my own love life and more. Every time that I watch this film, I don't know, it's one of those comfort fall movies. Meg Ryan's fall outfits are iconic. The whole cinematography, it's just a really good time. Like you said, it's a really good enemies to friends to lovers slow burn. One of the genre's top films, like you said. Very good introductory film. It was the only Meg Ryan film that I hadn't watched yet. And for some reason, I think it was when I was at that age, it was something that I had to grow out of, that whole, everybody really loves it, so I'm gonna be different. So I went into that film being I won't like it. And by the time the movie ended, I could see my reflection in my laptop. I was bawling. It was just a good time.
When you showed it to me, it wasn't one that I didn't think I would like it either. I don't know what it is. Maybe the aesthetic is really low key or something.
Yeah.
I know every time we watch it, we're oh my God, the pacing is so good. I just feel like they don't mess it up.
The dialogue.
They also do that thing where they do snapshots.
The storytelling.
Of the story, right? And I think of the baseball scene where he's telling his friend of something that happened, but he's saying it in dialogue. It's very personable. And they just... It's art. It's art. Fantastic movie.
So good.
My number 2 was already mentioned, which has kind of climbed up in the past few years. This wasn't even on my list when I was younger. I wouldn't have even thought of it.
Ratatouille.
No. And this one is While You Were Sleeping. It just, I think much in the same way that When Harry Met Sally has that quintessential feeling and really good pacing, I feel like While You Were Sleeping has that too.
Yeah.
You had mentioned she's just an ordinary girl. She's also got something else that I think we see in a lot of this where she's flawed.
So
but not
true.
in a malicious way. She's just trying to vibe. Because she tries to add more to your description of it. She saves this guy, and then she's because she has such a huge crush on him, she's I'm gonna go visit him and check on him, and get stuck in that predicament where they think that she's dating him, and she wants to say, no, I'm not. but for some reason she
Yeah.
can't get it out. And I just think that
Yes.
flaw in your main character, it's not mean, so you're not like, oh my god, I can't stand them, but you want them to do it, to say it, or to get out of that situation, so you're cheering for them.
All right.
Oh, we're here.
You already mentioned it. I've already hinted at it like 25 times by now. So it's You've Got Mail, not Must Love Dogs.
Must Love Dogs.
So this is the comfort film. This is the one. Correspondence, 10 out of 10. The enemies, well, rivals really. Rivals to friends, to lovers. The pacing, so good. The New York fall aesthetic, also
Meg
really
Ryan fall
good.
aesthetic.
The families, the friends, the dialogue, the storytelling, the children. Just listing things. So good, so iconic. Again, it's about what does she really want out of life? And that's a central theme in the story. The way that she talks about her love for Pride and Prejudice, for the bookstore that she owns. She's just very fierce, and the fierceness is sparked up when she's talking to Tom Hanks' character. It's just a really good time. Very comforting. I rewatched this last year a few times, and now whenever he comes over because she's sick, I get hives from the anxiety because of COVID. Because I'm like, what are you doing? Her like used tissues are everywhere. He goes and gives her a forehead kiss, and as a child I was like, oh my gosh, this is the sweetest thing ever. Now I'm like, ew. Other than that, the movie's aged incredibly well. The only thing I didn't like about it was her hair, but
you know, it's telling that it's aged well because it hinges on the technology, which some movies don't do that well.
Yeah, and now I think about it and I'm like, this movie has made such an impact on me that I made my entire final writing project for my undergrad about the power of the internet. And I used the line, all these little nothings have meant something to me.
Yeah.
That has been such an iconic line for me. So yeah, really, really great film.
Okay, my number one. This one has been my favorite for literally ever. Every time I watch it, it's still hilarious to me. And that's 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yes, I knew it.
This one's also got a great trope, which is the dare trope that you see in She's All That, a classic. Great cast. Heath Ledger's in it, and Heath Ledger is a fantastic actor. Like, anything he was in, I enjoyed. And it's also a Julia Stiles one, so got one of those rom-com sweetheart leads.
I haven't watched it still.
We need to watch it. This is one of those ones for me that there was a period of time where I could quote to you the dialogue from the beginning of the movie because I loved it. And I think the reason that it holds up well is that it is in fact based off of Shakespeare. So there's a set plan of events. Shakespeare was really good with diverting expectations, mixing things up, playing on the tropes of these characters, and the dialogue is very witty and fast-paced. Right. This is a great one. I don't have any like quotes or anything, but I love the pacing of it and the flow of it. Plus, I love Heath Ledger.
We did it.
We did it. So that's our list. We didn't have any that matched up, but we had a lot of overlapping throughout.
Yeah.
Repeats.
Because we have very similar tastes, just like slightly different. So which one comes up top? Well, I don't know about you, but mine is pretty superior. I'm kidding.
Well, if we wanted to like go by points or something, it'd probably be our top three together seem to be While You Were Sleeping, When Harry Met Sally, and You Got Mail are the three that we had on our top 7. What number was While You Were Sleeping for you?
4. Because of To All the Boys.
Yes. So I think that one was higher up just because my When Harry Met Sally and my You've Got Mail were lower.
So in conclusion, While You Were Sleeping, a really low-key rom-com is
a hidden gem. You wouldn't have even heard about it.
It's so good.
It is so funny though. And it is a winter vibe. I am surprised that The Holiday wasn't on your list.
The Holiday I count more as like a Christmas
different genre. I feel you.
For me. If we were doing a Christmas ranking, that would be number 1 for me.
I hear you.
But guys, if you want that to be a thing that we dive into, comments below.
I'm sure there are more. We're going to finish this off and I'll be like, oh, I should have added this one. But what can you do?
So if you guys would also like to share your top films,
We did top
Please
7, but you
comment
can do
below.
top however many.
You can do top 3. You could be like, this is my favorite one. If there's a particular scene that we discussed that you're like, oh my gosh, that speaks to me, also comment.
Yeah.
And find more of our favorite movies on our Instagram. We share our favorites every Friday.
We do.
So check in. I hope you enjoyed this ranking and go.
We were just gushing.
Yeah, go fall in love or don't. Okay, bye.
See you guys.
I only really know one song.
Play that one then.
Surprising. It's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes. I am getting so hot, I'm gonna take my clothes off.